In this video, we're going to learn the signs for in Christ alone. And there are different ways to interpret it as always, and so mine is not necessarily the best way, but watch this before you watch the video where we do it to music for practice, because this is where we learn the signs. Remember, I am left-handed, so if you're right-handed, you mirror image me. All right, we'll be focusing on the signs that my sign language class at church hasn't learned yet. We'll go over all the signs, but we'll be focusing mostly on the ones that are new to us. All right, so we have in Christ, and then alone is a new one to us. For alone, you just turn your finger around like that. In Christ alone, that's alone or only. Okay, and that's not alone as in I am alone and lonely. It's like only, in Christ alone or in Christ only. My hope is found. We know we know hope. You don't need to do the finger. You can just do this. Hope is, I would leave off the word is in this case, but let's just run through the be verbs real quickly. So, you know, the be verbs, I am, you are, he is. So I is the letter I put here. A lot of deaf people just prefer this. So you can do I, or you can just point to yourself that way, or you can leave it out in this case. Let's see. And then, so that's I am, and then he or wherever you want to point. He is, this is the sign for is, so, and then the sign for am is with an A. The sign for are, as in you are, like that. The sign for was, and this is really rarely used, but you go out with a W and back with an S. And the sign for were, you were there, is out with a W, back with an R. So those are just related words to a word in this song that we had not covered yet. So that's the be verbs. There's be, and then there's is, am, are, was, and were. And often you just use the finger, and that can mean really any of them. That also means true. Or, you know, if you're reading the Bible and it's like verily, verily, you know, you might say that, but that means true. And I'm actually more likely to use that than I am any of the specific be verbs. Okay, so it's my hope is found. For found, I was taught to put a hand here and an F. You don't have to have the hand. You can just pick up with the F like that. Found. It's like you found something in the hand or just there. My hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. So he, this is an instance where I might want to say truly. You know, he truly is, and you don't need to say the is, you know, just say, that's like a way of saying he is. My light, we've had that before, my strength, and my song. So we've had all of those words. This cornerstone, this solid ground. We've never done the word this before, and it's another one you could leave out, but this is this. We've had that before. That's with the Y coming down. That, this. So sometimes I'll use this, and sometimes I'll leave it out. So this. For cornerstone, here's a corner. You just make a corner. I usually do kind of right angle with your hands. And then for stone, I do this. So you hit the back of your hand. I've seen it with the front, but I was taught with the back, and I think that makes it more clear. So this cornerstone, this solid, for solid you take X's like that and hit like this. So solid, you might do it twice, once or twice. Solid. For ground, you do like dirt, and then I smooth out the dirt like that onto the ground. So here we have solid ground. Okay. Firm through the fiercest drought and storm. So firm is the same thing as solid. Solid or firm. Firm through the fiercest. For through, the sign for through is like that. So you could do that. You could interpret it as during. So during or while is like this. We saw that once before. I forget in what song we did that. So while. The fiercest. Okay, so if you take two fingers like this, kind of like K's, and go like that, and your dominant hand comes to the inside. So fiercest. For drought, I would just use dry. You could add other signs to that, but that's going to be the fastest and easiest to do in a song. So drought and storm. So your storm, is going crazy, and I usually make it kind of fierce. You can make gentle breezes, or you can make it more fierce. Okay, so we've got the fiercest, drought, and is optional, storm. Okay. Let's see, what heights of love, what depths of peace. So if you want to do what, you have this, what, or you can leave that out. Heights, you have an H going up, that's heights. And then what depths, so you have a finger going down, what depths of peace. So, and love we know. So what heights of love, what depths of, what did I say, peace? Remember, we learned in another song that peace, it means become quiet. It's two signs combined. Become quiet, and that's peace. Okay. You might interpret it differently, like instead of what heights of love, you might interpret it wonderful love, wonderful peace. There are different ways that you can interpret it. So you can do the literal, what heights of love, what depths of peace, which is probably what I'll do. But, my interpretation is not the only one, and it's probably not even the best one. So you can do different things. Okay. When fears are stilled, when strivings cease. So remember our timeline. When fears are stilled, that's quiet or calm. Remember, that's part of the sign for peace. Become quiet. So when fears are quieted or stilled or calmed, that's this sign. When strivings cease, that's when, again. For strivings, you can do this. I learned with a T to do, to try. And so like you're trying, you're striving. So you can do that with the A if you want to. So that's when striving cease. And for cease, I would do stop. Stop. Okay, so let's do that again. So when fears are stilled, when strivings cease. Okay, my comforter, my all in all. So the sign for comfort is to put your hand like this and then like this. And to make it comforter, you add the person sign. So my comforter. And then to do literally my all in all, you can do my all in all. Or if you prefer, you could interpret that as my everything. Remember the sign for every, where you put this part of your hand and down your thumb like that. So everything. Okay. Here in the love of Christ I stand. So this is here. Just here. here in the love. For of, if you want to do that, you just spell it O-F like that. Of Christ I stand. There you go. Okay. Let's see. See if we can get in one more verse. Okay, so in Christ alone, who took on flesh. So we have in Christ alone. Who? We're going to say, for took on, we'll say became. Remember, became. And for flesh, you touch your hand like this. This is also the same as a sign for meat. If you want some meat to eat, it's the same thing, and your gravy can be drippings off of that meat. Okay, but this is also the sign for flesh. Okay, so took on flesh, fullness of God in helpless babe. So remember the sign for fullness of, if you want it, God in, remember this is help, and this is helpless, or you might see help none. So helpless or helpless. I'll be doing it this way. Helpless babe. Okay, I have to look at my notes here every time. All right, this gift of love and righteousness. Okay, again, this, if you want to use the sign for gift, you take X's and you give it that way. This gift of love in and righteousness. So that's and. And for righteousness, you take your R down the hand. Remember, this is clean. And so you can take the R. I usually angle it this way, but I've seen it both ways. And then for truth, I do an H down the hand. So you've got righteous or righteousness with the R and truth with the H. And that's similar to the clean sign. Same kind of movement. Scorned by the ones he came to save. So scorn is like looking, but you're looking down on somebody and you have a nasty look on your face. So you're scorning, scorned. By would just be B-Y, spelling by the ones. Now, I don't want to say one because this is ones. This means the people, scorned by the people. So I would actually sign the word people. You take P's, and it's kind of like riding a bike. You do that kind of riding a bike motion. If you're talking about visit, it's V's. So again, we do related words when we learn words. So if you're signing in church and they're talking about the visitors, you have the visit people. Okay, so this is the sign for people. Okay, scorned by the people that he came to save. Remember S's, and you're bound and open it up to save. Okay. Till on the cross as Jesus died. So this is until. To is just like this, T-O, to. And you make like a hump over for until. Until. On the cross as Jesus died. On the cross. Now, whenever you see as, you have to know, is it like this is like this is as this, or is it as in while? And this means while Jesus died. So you do this motion with your two fingers. It kind of curves down and goes out. While Jesus died. We know those signs already. The wrath of God was satisfied. So wrath, anger, wrath of God. And this is satisfied. You take your arms and go down. Satisfied. Satisfied. So the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on him was laid. This is 4. We have our every again. Sin, we know. On him. Now for was laid, I don't really want to use this because, sin isn't laying down. I would put it as a burden on Jesus. So every sin was laid. I would use the sign for burden rather than the sign for lay. Here in the death of Christ I live. Here, in the death of Christ I live. Okay? And we're out of time, so I will have to do the second half of the song on a second video.